a motion, including consent, to approve all three under one vote, or they can make a motion of any of the items. Item A, minutes from July 10th, 2024, regular session. Item B, current bills. Item C, liquor licenses.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion on the items.
I have a question on two of the bills. Under fire service, we had Red's Towing, Petra Stop, AFD 6 for $2,005.68. Can someone tell me what that is for? It was under the fire service portion of the expense report.
Looks like they have the lights replaced. And the car that comes with them. Or that.
And the other one that I had was under the wastewater fund. The QC Analytical Services LLC for testing for $1,386. What were we having tested, or what was that?
That's our monthly test that we can't run at the wastewater plant.
Okay, thank you.
I need a clarification about website hosting. I don't know what exactly that's.
Sometimes the website, so you buys post on website.
Oh, okay. And then the I will leave you dues, is that for Jeremiah, you, all the council members, or how does that work?
Well, there are individual and group dues. Not sure which one is listed in there. It's just, okay. So this one was for the city as a whole, but there are individual dues as well.
Any further questions on bills? Chief Worling approached me prior to the meeting. He does have a few statements he would like to make on the liquor license agenda item.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Worling, Police Chief. Just wanted to provide some feedback. In my experience with liquor licenses, what I'm used to doing is providing feedback to the council when we need to do some work for an establishment. I ran some calls, the number of calls for all of our downtown establishments, and one of them has significantly more calls for service, and the types of calls for service are of concern. I also checked in with the officers to hear, what are you seeing on nights? What does it look like? Which is why I asked Officer Rigg to come in, and Officer Humphrey is here as well. When I looked at the calls for Tucker's, Deb's, and Hot Shots, so just our downtown businesses that are open during the similar hours, Tucker's had 12 in the last year and a half, Deb's had 15, and Hot Shots had 23. So they're at least 30% higher than all the other similar businesses. And when I've run into issues like this in my last community, what I offered was I asked for permission to get with the business ownership to discuss the issue, try and come up with a plan of action to try and remedy those situations so we're not having as many calls for service and the types of calls that we're having, because we're having intoxes, OWIs, assaults. I think there was even an instance with a weapon at one point, and I don't want to see those in our community. So what I would like to see is work with them for the next year, see if we can come up with a plan to reduce the number of calls, and then reevaluate when they apply for next year that we've either made some progress and that's a good thing, or maybe we haven't, need to have a different discussion. So I just wanted to provide that to the council. And if you want some specific instances, that's why two of my overnight officers are here if you do have questions about any other specific calls.
Council, is there any questions or for Chief Worling?
Would you say when you made this your practice in previous places that it was a successful practice?
Yes, specifically, we had a business that was serving after hours a lot. We found out that during the conversation that they were selling buckets with 6 bottles of beer, and they were selling right up until 2 a.m. So there's no possible way you can finish 6 beers at 2 a.m. and be within the law. And all it took was a conversation. So it was meeting with them, having a conversation, discuss what the issues are. And both businesses that I have had these conversations with in the past, we made positive outcomes from them.
When you were looking at the 23 calls in the last year, were there particular times of the year where you were getting more, or, you know, was it pretty even over all 12 months?
I did not break it down that specifically. I just ran it more for total calls and types of calls. So that, like I said, the total calls, they were up 30% over the other 2 businesses, and that's hard to do with an average when there's only 3, obviously. But the call types on there, public intox, trespass, theft, narcotics, disturbance, harassment, suspicious person calls. I think that with some conversation with the business owners, some training with the staff, making sure that we're not over serving people, making sure if we have somebody who is overserved that we talk to the employees who are still serving and help them get some training. And we do have that training in the community, tips training, so they know how to recognize when somebody's intoxicated, let them know that they're free to call us so we can come in and help, that sort of thing.
But as you are here tonight, you're suggesting that we approve it just so long as we give you the authority or latitude to do this discussion?
I would like permission to do the discussion and that's why I wanted to bring it to the council to ensure that you're okay with that, because I want to see a positive outcome from this instead of just keep running into a brick wall where we know we've got an issue that we're not making any changes with. So with permission, I would like to do that to see if we can make a difference in this one establishment. So yes, I would say I would like to see it move forward so we can keep the business going. I don't want to see a business stop, but I would like to see some changes.
Yes, I can appreciate you bringing this before council. It certainly, to me, I would consider it a proactive approach.
Mhm.
That would definitely have value on the back end for the community in general. With that being said, is it the council to bless you to move forward with it? Shows the unity, but Jeremiah, would it really be necessary? I mean, would it be part of Chief Worley's duties to?
Yeah, I think he certainly can do that. I believe he would just want to make the council aware that there is very clearly an issue with this one establishment. Wanted to be proactive so that the council had the wherewithal to understand that this issue was occurring. So there was certainly a unified approach to handle this. I can say I think that those issues were occurring back when I was in Chief Whirling's position as well, so it's not new. And I think he's just trying to reach out and try to do something. Again, everybody's already said this, but proactively to handle the situation. I did have Kaylee reach out to the alcohol beverage division after I was notified of this, kind of explain what the council could potentially do if it does not, a solution is not reached and there continues to be issues. We're just kind of preparing for the next step, just in case.
The liquor licenses in front of council have been signed off by you to advance them, move forward with. Any other discussion from council?
Thanks for being proactive.
Is there any public comment? Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Tom,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes. Yes.
Kate Smith,
yes.
Wyman,
Yes.
Consent motion carried. 4.0 public hearings, none. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 postponed items, none. 7.0 council action items. 7.1 project status update, HR Green.
I do just have the report in here from Melissa with HR Green. I believe she may be on Zoom if there are any questions. Otherwise, I think most of these are still in the same or similar status, just kind of moving along. There's a few of them that are or have been placed on hold. Yeah, if the council has any questions, I can try to answer those or have Melissa get on and answer those.
Well, I do have a couple of questions. I see we've got at least 3 items that have been on hold for about a year. Is there any way to get those off of that status and get them moving forward?
We can, specifically, so for example, the sidewalk program, this is one that was not budgeted for. It's on hold because we explained that it was not included in the budget. We needed to wait until kind of the state's requirements and different changes got hammered out, and we figured whether or not we were going to proceed. Cedar and Huber reconstruction, same sort of deal. I believe that one we're working through the easement process. I cannot talk to the well 7 siting. That one maybe Steve or Robert could provide some additional. I think those are the only few ones, but
Yeah, I think those are the only 3 that are on hold. But
yeah.
The well 7 site, just haven't had competition.
well, reading this, it's the school.
No.
Has that changed?
That has changed. No longer.
Okay,
200-foot illegal control that we can't apply any kind of like that. Weed for you.
okay, so this probably then at some point ought to state that there's a new site being looked at other than the school, so this doesn't keep mentioning the school. Okay.
Is there a time frame in which we're gonna be approaching this new person? I mean, is there something on the schedule?
We just haven't done that. We've been trying to take care of some other issue stuff and just. It's pretty low on the priority list.
So how old is Wells 5? Because that would be the one that would be replaced by 7, right? So how old is 5?
1980.
So it's 44 years old. And don't they figure 50 years? So I think we need to start working on it a little bit harder. So we're not doing like we did the last time, we're at year 55 instead of 50 or. Okay,
Aaron, is Melissa at all raising her hand to speak? Okay.
Yes, I can speak if you have questions.
and then another question I have is on the Third Street sidewalk. Yeah, have we thought about doing a traffic study on Third Street to see what impact taking this from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes is gonna have?
Yeah, if Melissa has additional, I can let her comment on that. We did have that conversation as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, when we had spoken last, obviously that would require additional fees that we had not originally intended on. So we were taking from other communities which have done the same and resembled that it will almost certainly have a better impact. Is that a good way to say it, or am I?
Yes, that is. We spoke with the Iowa DOT and they stated that this project would be ideal really for the 3 to 4 or the 4 to 3 lane conversion. The project I used in comparison with Jeremiah was 42nd Street in Cedar Rapids, which is right by Kennedy High School. And it went through this conversion and it has performed very well. We do have an estimate, which I can forward again to Jeremiah for a traffic study. If you want that performed before we move forward with this.
Also have any other questions or discussions?
Have we give consideration to the sewer line going across the lumberyard and rethinking that right there?
Yeah, so I sent out kind of an update on that. Of course, we are in the process of acquiring easements at this time. That was part of the original consideration. There would be pros and cons of doing it both ways. The additional costs that were potentially would be associated with the other. It's kind of the reason they went this way. If we decided to kind of switch gears and go a different direction now, it would be possible. Of course, we'd have to go back through the approval process and whatnot through council.
Well, the one benefit I could see if we did consider that is taking the sewer from Cedar and tying it into Huber rather than run through the REC's main facility. Or to a Quonset building and there's like over 500 feet of sewer line in there. You can't jet the whole thing in one shot. And that would eliminate 2 problems potentially for the city. Or for us. Something to think about.
Just thought I'd let you know that there is also another project that we kind of started that encompasses that because of the storm that's under the REC building and stuff like that, which I think they just got the preliminary drawings done, but we obviously put that on them too. But that has already been taken into account. It just wasn't put. We didn't put the 2 projects together because
Have we committed to doing the retention tank down at the plant? Where are we at with that?
I guess I need more information. Committed to what retention?
Are we moving forward with that project?
I think we're waiting on ECOG in that, I believe. Yes, but last I heard, there was a procedure that ECOG was still going through and we were told to be patient. So
I see. Okay, thank you.
Is there anything additional for HR Green? 7.2, resolution 2024-32, setting the salaries for fiscal year 2025 for appointed officers and employees of the city of Anamosa, Iowa, and establishing an effective date for this resolution.
I don't have a lot on this. These were, for the most part, except for union employees, library employees, and a couple of cleanup items. These were within the approved budget guidelines, and set predominantly at the 2% increase for the year. Otherwise, it's, I think, a pretty standard resolution, would be similar to previous years.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Brooke. Council discussion. Public comment.
Rachel Frank, I am a property owner. And I just want to clarify, so the 2% that you're talking about, is that cost of living increase for the city employees?
It's just a standard 2% increase, year to year that can vary. And it's of course all approved by the council depending on what it is, but
Is that
well, I think it accounts for that. We don't try to match cost of living increases necessarily. There's just too many factors to come into play.
is that- so it's not.
No, it is not.
So one point, so parent at
No,
performance.
no. The union contract controls the most of the police department employees, and the library board affects the library.
Library board. But are they on field or?
Yeah, so across the board, generally speaking, in years past, the council has always approved a set increase, and that applies to all employees. And they just have increased it by that much. I believe last year we did a 3%, and then there's, of course, inflationary aspects that come into play, and that can change it.
Did the council or the city as a whole, they do, I don't know, salary or rate setting regarding that sort of thing, just to see where we are and how, what kind of the last thing that?
So that's something that I guess I did as police chief within my own department. Those can vary greatly. You can go out, the challenge is always looking at other cities who are not always comparable. Even in size or population, there could be a lot of differences. And there's generally a low and a high. You can hit somewhere in there. It's, I guess, ideal. And that doesn't always happen. Right, yeah, which is also, can also be somewhat interesting because you can find larger cities, that are paid lower, than what we are, and vice versa. So it's never an absolute science, but we try to hit within that area as closely as possible.
I guess I don't understand why the library board is not, obviously, and I think have that, but why is the library?
Because the state law mandates that the library boards get to make those decisions. So we do incorporate it into this, on the resolution. You'll see a small asterisk at the bottom that says, although the council does not necessarily approve this, we include it on here for transparency purposes. They don't all get the same raise, yes. Welcome.
Any other comments?
Have we ever thought about going to a merit system rather than a percent across the board?
I guess I can't answer that question. I don't, my time here has been somewhat limited. I just know in the last 6 years or so, there's been limited conversation about that, but you know, it's certainly a possibility, a way to look at things. That would not be probably for me to decide, though.
I think that's something we should look into.
There are no other questions or comments. Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Number,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes,
Wyman,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.3, resolution 2024-33, approving the salary change request submitted by chief of police due to satisfying probationary employment requirements. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.4, resolution 2024-34, approving the salary change request submitted by the Parks and Recreation Director due to satisfying probationary employment requirements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny?
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.5, resolution 2024-35, to hire and set the wages of seasonal part-time parks and recreation employees for the 2024 summer season. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Todd. Council discussion. Public comment. Any?
Whitman,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. Resolution 7.6, resolution 2024-36, adopting the revised fee schedule for the city of Anamosa.
This particular one, this is something I believe is new, for our city. I'm not entirely sure, again, just due to my limited, time here. Several fees within the city require to be either approved by ordinance or some by resolution. I know there's many of them we've talked in the past, just over the last year or so, that, have not been updated in quite some time. The most efficient way that I could find that other cities have used to do this, however, is they just pass an annual fee resolution that covers all of the fees that the city has. We worked over the last several department director meetings to kind of discuss those. The current situation that we do have are some departments have been charging more for the same fees than others. So we tried to clean up those and combine them, make them all consistent. And just much like the salary resolution, I included on here both the current fees that we're charging and the proposed fiscal year 25 fees. I hope you all had an opportunity to at least look at these. For the most part, there were, I would say, either no changes or modest increases. As I've stated before, the ones that we really changed quite a bit of, this would be for the residential, new construction, site plan reviews and preliminary plating procedures. Not to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but we did have a situation recently with a large project in town. We got multiple phone calls from the developer at City Hall. When we told them how much the fee was for, they didn't believe us. And they called back again and asked somebody else. And then they called back a third time and asked because our fees were so low. They were used to spending thousands of dollars, not a couple of hundred. And so you'll see those reflected in the site plan review and the plat of survey, the preliminary plat review and final plat review. Those are the ones where I've added plus engineering costs. It is currently costing us anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to get these reviewed by somebody who knows more than I do when we're looking at these. But we're charging $200 for them. So those are the most significant increases in this fee schedule.
And I see the fire department has some significant increases from $0 to $350 per hour and
Yeah, so those were hazmat, if I can find it here. This has been discussions as well between myself and the fire chief. These are primarily hazmat fees where if a tanker truck rolls into town and has a hazmat issue, it's costing us and our equipment to roll out and take care of that. The conversation was about how to create a procedure that's going to not arbitrarily affect local citizens, but is certainly going to hold those corporate companies or individuals who may have dangerous hazmat situations accountable for those.
okay.
Any other discussion? If not, can we entertain a motion?
I would like clarification on the vendor fees. Well, it's, and it's not very much, but I just wondered if food vendors had to pay a vendor payment to the city as well as the pumpkin fest or whatever activities going on. In addition, do they do both or just?
No, they just do one. And this last couple of years, just because of, I would say the lack of clarity or direction in what they've previously been required to do. We've been grandfathering those organizations in and requiring them to pay one fee combined to the city under the umbrella of the event. I don't believe that's the correct way to do it. But I understand that in the past it's been handled differently, so we didn't want to impose a new requirement on people who, without advising or explaining to them that there were changes coming.
So are you still waiting on a motion?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Rich.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. Any other council discussion? I don't remember seeing in there. Did we have, for lack of better word, I'll call it like a peddler fee? Was that included?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just overlooked it.
Yeah.
Council, any discussion on the motion? Any public comment? Penny, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Schaumburg,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.7, resolution 2024-37. Authorizing the city clerk to make necessary interfund transfers of sums to close out completed projects for fiscal year 2024.
I'll second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council discussion.
So everything checked out at the fire station. There's no other costs that we're gonna be having as far as any repair issues or any other issues that were kind of left.
I certainly hope not.
So this just closes out what we have to pay for this year. So there still may be some additional things coming.
There should not be, essentially, this has been, wrapped up. Both projects tied up with a bow, they're done, they're paid for. They're not reflected in our, accounting system, however, so we've got a deficit balance that's showing. We just need to fix that, so it doesn't carry over from year to year.
As long as we have Chief Whirling here, is everything good at the police department? All things. We got any bugs that need to be worked out on that as far as the construction part?
We just did our 11-month walkthrough with the architect, brought him through, showed him a few things that felt like needed to be addressed. He did send me an email. We've got some of the emergency lighting that there's a fault in it, so they're gonna take care of those. They're gonna have Doors Inc. come in and work on some of the doors and the door equipment. So that's been the hardest part of any project they've done lately. And for our main garage, the sensors, the safety sensors, they mounted on the rails for the door. So as the door starts to move, they move and the doors won't open or close. So they're gonna address those issues. I believe, and there was one light outside of the sergeant's office that I don't think has worked since we moved in. Those are all covered under warranty. They're gonna handle them, and as far as I know, I can't think of anything else.
But everything else inside, you guys are happy with
Yes,
what's there?
yes.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? Any public comment? So I confirmed with Penny today. So granted, the bills are paid. As Jeremiah mentioned, the bow has been tied. But we had an overreach with the fire station addition of $289,441. We had an overreach of the police station of $245,074. This was over the anticipated estimated project cost beginning. Again, the bills are paid, but this type of overreach cannot happen again. Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Anderson,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
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 Motion to approve carried. Should have stated before I took it to motion or to vote. That was not, my comments were not reflective of current city clerk or current city administrator. As these projects were well off the ground prior to them being in their current positions. I apologize. 7.8, discussion and possible action. Hearing to appeal the designation and removal of a dangerous, vicious, aggressive animal. Shania Atkins, did I butcher your first name?
Naya. Hi, Atkins, 103 North Benton Street. This is my first time doing, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
You're doing well so far. I think means you're petitioning for council to overturn the decision by the police department, the investigating officer, that your dog was deemed dangerous, vicious, aggressive. Anything you would want to state for council to take that under advisement to overturn the officer's decision.
Honestly, I have a 2-year-old that has seizures, and honestly, even to the sleep, this dog wakes you up. And I have a miniature that found in the house, and I have 4 kids in the house, and the dogs never attacked one of them, never attacked any dog. This is the first thing that I've known of attacking a dog. And I've been we've been taking precaution of it not happening again. We're trying to get a fence put up. Going through the city hall to get approved for that. And I've been honestly taking the dog out to my mom for when I go to work, so it doesn't happen again. So honestly, I'm trying to, it's more for my daughter's safety, because having a 2-year-old that have a seizure and you're asleep, I know when she's having a seizure, the dogs are alarm clock when it's happening, and it saved her life twice already for having a seizure. It's happened midnight, and you have a dog going nuts in your house howling. Honestly, that's one big reason I want her to stay. I don't have anything else to put unless he has something to put. If he lives there too.
Also, do you have any questions at this time for Shania? If they do, they'll just summons you to come back before, to the podium again. Is there anyone? Is there any other comments from anyone?
Frank Hall, 703 East Main Street. Miles, my son, owns their property. And I don't know how to go with it. But the dog was on a leash and Miles was pretty scared, was aggressively barking at him. Flying over him. And so we told him that we have to have a leash. We did that. So I didn't know how to do so.
One piece I wanted to add about this, I'm standing in for Officer Hunt, he's not here today, he's the investigating officer, but he is currently on vacation. Of course, this happened while he was on vacation, but I have reviewed his notes, spoke to him, and I printed out all the documentation for the call. Under our code for aggressive dog. I'll start with vicious animals. So under vicious animal, it says, any animal that has attacked, bitten, clawed a person, and then it goes down. Or has past conduct including that said animal, and here's the relevant portion, has attacked any domestic animal causing injury while off the property of the owner. So in this case, this dog left its own property, went to someone else's property and bit the dog causing injury. So by definition for the animal society ordinance, it would fall under vicious animal, which is why Officer Hunt followed through with the. Officer Hunt actually went so far as to check into the Humane Society where the animal was adopted from, and the staff at that shelter said that it was relinquished to the shelter because it was aggressive towards female dogs, and that it was in a quote vicious fight with another dog in that home over a bone. So according to the Humane Society where the animal was relinquished, it had aggressive tendencies and then had this incident.
We know if when the dog was adopted this time, that the owners were made aware of what you just reported from the center.
I was not aware of it at all. Like I said, I have a miniature dash hound at home. I've never, in the 6 months of owning the dog, I've never had an issue. And his parents own a farm with, what is it, 4 dogs? 4 dogs at it. My mom owns a miniature teacup chihuahua. I take it to her house, most of the dogs spend the day at when I'm at work. So I know the dog's being let outside and she's never attacked her dog. So I've never had issue of it attacking another dog in our watch. So this is the first incident that I've been aware of.
Thank you. Jeremiah, has any of this been discussed at all? Has it been run past city attorney at all, the procedure?
In general or the specific
The
situation?
specific-
No, generally speaking, this is, just due to the ordinance requirements, this is the method or the vehicle in which this goes. Chief Worley and I have had a little limited discussion on potentially changing this ordinance so it goes through the courts as a possibility or as an alternative. But the way it currently sits right now, this is the procedure, and the city attorney is not involved.
Also, is there a direction that you are looking to go?
Well, I've got, I guess, a question for Ryan. I'm just kind of going back through the police report and everything, but it said you sustained some injuries. Is that correct? Or,
Just from wrestling the dog.
okay, so you basically tackled the dog and,
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm kind of reading this, okay, and you had to hit her or hit him, or is it a her or him?
I hit her several times because she had her mouth around the dog, poking her out, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just go ahead. Oh, that's somebody's gonna say something. Just to remind council that the officer, huh? Is that the investigative officer? Has made a decision to deem this animal, the dog, dangerous, vicious, or aggressive. That stands unless council is looking to, or making a decision to overturn that decision. In a sense, that is what, just to remind you, that is what is before you this evening as the Atkins have requested this review, which is well within our ordinance, their right to present that before you this evening.
I'm wondering, does the ordinance make any exception for dogs that are? What do you call them? I'm losing the word, sorry. Support dogs, ones that, and do you have any documentation that the dog did alert you to a seizure? Because I know there are dogs that are specially trained to do that.
I had a doctor from the anxiety, and we actually were aware of my daughter having seizures. And one night at midnight, she started having a seizure, and the dog was running around the house like crazy. When one of the kids are puking, she runs around letting us know that a kid's puking. Like, I don't know if it's in the dog's nature to do it. We were thinking about going to get her checked out to see if she's actually like a service dog or something. Because I don't know what her home was like before she came to us or what. Because I adopted her from a maid side. All I know is my daughter had seizures and this dog aware of what had happened. And it's happened twice to us.
To answer your question, there are two exceptions in the code. One of the exceptions is a law enforcement or military agency can have a dog that's aggressive. And the other is keeping of guard dogs, but it doesn't say anything in the code about service dogs.
I'm not hesitating. I just want to make sure I give the council plenty of opportunity to review this. And move in whatever direction you see fit. I understand what is before you is very sensitive, as most of you are dog owners yourselves. So I can understand the hesitation, but you do have a decision to make this evening.
Chief Whirling, can you tell me when the last time, if ever, we've had this particular issue come up as far as a council decision on vicious dog?
The last one I think was before I started. I remember seeing one in old council meetings that I watched before I started, but I don't have a date up that. So
And do you know what the disposition of that was?
I
Or the
know that it was
resolution?
a long drawn out process and there were several times before the council meetings. I believe that it was the removal was overturned, but I don't know for certain. I think that's what happened.
Well, the one I think you're mentioning, it was overturned with the dog getting training within 3 months, I believe it was. Something like that. So that dog had to go to training for 3 months. If it did not complete training, then it was to be removed. And then there was another event after that one where they voluntarily said they were going to take training.
Can we ask, would you have the ability to go to dog training with the dog?
Yeah, I did.
Have you looked into any kind of training for your dog since this incident?
No, I haven't, because I had the dog around other dogs and never realized it was an incident. Because when it happened, the cop told me the dog wasn't gonna have to be removed. And like, a week later, the cop came back and said, the dog had to be removed. So, we're locked on why a whole week changes a cop's mind. Cause when it happened, the cop said no, and then like a week later, it had to. So I didn't think I'll even look into getting that training because at first it pretty so it didn't have to be.
I'll address what it took. Officer Hunt initially did the investigation and based on the notes and my discussion with him, it sounds like the injuries that Brian suffered, they felt that the blood on the dog was from his injuries. They didn't see anything on the dog at that time. After some time had passed, Tyler went back to investigate and they found that the spots where the dog was bitten, they had scabs, they had scabbed over, so injuries didn't occur, they just weren't able to see it at the time of the event. It's not uncommon, it happens with humans too, bruises show up later. We often follow up with assault victims in the same way. Follow up 3 days later, they were going to show up. So that's why there was a not an initial removal, but one later.
So the dog will turn, and this happened again tomorrow.
I'm going to make a motion to affirm the action of the peace officer.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. to affirm, uphold, the investigation by the officer. Council, is there any discussion on the motion?
I have some discussion. Um, the decision here is certainly going to affect two families in particular. And I have concerns for both sides. One thing as a member of the council that I feel is important is we cannot have our citizens in danger of being bitten or attacked by an animal. I'm very sympathetic to dog owners. I have a dog myself. My reason for asking some of my questions prior to this vote was because in my regular line of work, you have a law and you start making exceptions to that law. So sooner or later, the exceptions overtake the law. And I think we have as a council have to be very much aware that our actions have consequences. And if we have a rule on the books, whether we like it, don't like it, if we make one exception and it's two exceptions, three exceptions, we start to have a law that our police can't enforce or have difficulty enforcing. And we have citizens that don't know the bright line between, yes, this is acceptable, or no, this isn't. So this is a hard call for me, but I just want to put that out there. We have to be aware that when we put something on the books, we're the ones responsible for determining whether we're going to have exceptions or not exceptions. And if we make one, we start making two, we start making three, we're not going to have rules we can enforce. So that's all I have.
Any other comment or discussion from council? This is not typical or regular, but I will go back to the public for any last or final comments. Penny, would you conduct a roll vote for the motion on the floor?
Hubbard,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Kay Smith,
No,
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to affirm the officer's decision has been approved at 4 favorable votes and 1 opposed. Chief, I'm sure this ball now gets handed over to your department to carry. 7.9, review and approve Planning and Zoning Commission Annual Report for fiscal year 24.
Just very briefly on this, if the council wants to see this in a different format or different information, please let me know. I did request of the Planning and Zoning Commission here, not our last meeting, but I believe the one previously. We've started going through some of the ordinances that affect that group. And that was when we saw that this report was required. I asked what format that had come in the past, and they didn't believe that we had done it, or it had been a while and they couldn't recall. So I did just throw this together, got it approved at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. But if there's council wants to see something different, just let me know and I'll make those changes.
I'll move to approve the planning and zoning annual report.
For a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Council discussion. Public comment? Penny, please.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kate Smith,
Yes.
Wyman,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.10, review and approve purchase request from Cale Yoder in the amount of $7,853.48 to replace the diving board at the aquatic center. Move to approve.
Kelly, the parking lot director, just for some clarification, on the quote that Jeremiah provided, this is why it just do the top number. These are the differences between a wind gun and road. We have issues with one's cracked, and certainly about the bottom. That's why I brought it here. We do have a budget in fiscal year 24, so we'd like to get it ordered and ready to go before fiscal year ends. And then we end up going using them one just because we can always take it and move it regarding whatever future offer holds.
What's the life expectancy? on the-
So I kind of wrote it on there, the aluminum is 12 years and for the wooden one, it's up to 7.
Sorry, the pool itself, where are we at in the life expectancy of the pool?
So typically when they put a pool in, they give you 25 to 30 years. So it's coming up on that. This summer we plan to dive into it more, getting some more reports back. So we can get better.
But this new board would presumably be able to be reused.
I'll second.
The motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council discussion. Public comment. Is the current one in a sense offline?
Yes, it's currently blocked off with money.
How are we doing it pool wise this summer? We're getting a lot of use out of it.
We are getting a lot of use. The pool passes have definitely slowed down a lot just because we got to the first.
Sure.
initial rush shut off. The pool parties have been going like crazy. So that's always good sight to see. But it's been packed every time we get out there. So that's lovely.
Great.
Penny?
Trump,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Kate Smith,
Yes.
Wyman,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.11, review and approve service agreement from EC cog for the next phase of downtown revitalization community development block grant, CDBG project.
This is just a standard agreement I think we've seen before from ECOG. This is for the next phase, just to initiate that and get moving on it. I do apologize. I'm not sure if we call this phase 3 or if this is 2C or 2. Yeah, it's been referred to as a couple of different things. So, but it's the next phase. Anyways, I believe the north side of the next phase. Second phase, north, yes. Or phase 3.
The rest of you don't remember it either.
So I do have a question about this. Where it talks about the termination of the service agreement. It states basically, notice of termination to the other party no less than 7 days before the end date of this service agreement. What's the end date? Because the effective dates state, beginning June 10th, 2024, but I don't see an end date.
That's a good catch. I will look into that. I'll have to go back through and look at the previous ones as well, because I don't know how they were. It's been a long time since. See if they put an end date on those or.
I mean, I didn't know if the agreement was for, say, 2 years, if it, how long this may be an ongoing, but in order to have 7 days prior to the end date, you gotta have an end date somewhere.
So is this agreement time sensitive?
No, not from the standpoint of a requirement that it has to happen tonight. ECOG just had reached out, said they're ready, trying to work within the parameters of good weather, construction schedules, things like that to keep it moving along. But I don't believe that 2 weeks is gonna make a huge difference as far as hindering any future project with it.
Rich, means you raised the question. Is it a red flag enough to postpone this? Or
Well, unless we want to put,
caveat in?
yeah, stating that we would like to have an end date. Now, I don't know if this project is scheduled for 2 years. Before it start, I don't know when this thing's supposed to start, if it's in 2025 or 2026.
Under the effective dates paragraph, it has the service agreement start date beginning June 10th of 2024 and is to remain in effect until funding disposition being bold print. But then the next sentence starts off with upon award of a grant. Then there's going to be a separate agreement for grant administration. Have we seen, I mean, the grant hasn't been awarded yet.
No.
And so then under the grant administration, this separate agreement, is that where? I guess my question would be, is that where they're going to determine the end date of the service agreement? Because they don't really have an end date since they haven't distributed the funds. So I think Rich brings up a good point. But it may be that we need to see what an example of the service agreement is once a grant has been awarded. That may give us the information as far as when the end date would actually be.
Yeah, because what would happen if, say, the grant is not done? So does this just keep rolling and rolling?
But
Because
I think that's the question that we need to have
Yeah.
answered is, right now, this is presuming a grant is gonna happen. But the grant happening then, I think, sets up your next end date, because the grant would have to be used in a certain period of time, I would assume, or otherwise the
Right.
grant goes away. So I think the answer to the effective date of the contract has to be looked at in terms of also finding out about what happens if we don't get the award, if we don't get a grant, then does this just evaporate, or are we just kind of held at bay?
or we could even add shall not exceed 24 months or something to at least put a termination at some point to, there needs to be discussion then for the next phase if we're gonna redo it.
For the south side project, it's now, I think, pretty well done. Do we have a similar type of service agreement that we can go back and look at that? As well as the award agreement? And maybe see how those were structured to see if there's something more that we can do with this.
We can, yeah, I do know we have this, it's just been, quite some time has passed. I don't recall how that was written up or, but I'm sure it's as simple as just talking to Derek or ECOG and having a new one presented for us.
Sounds like it might be in the best interest.
Is it something that you think you could get an answer to by the next council meeting if
Yeah.
we tabled this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And tabling it would not create a time sensitive issue, correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
we can just postpone this. Till we get that information. If the council so chooses, you could make a motion to postpone it or just allow that to happen. Your decision.
I'll make a motion to postpone until the next meeting.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. No discussion. Public comment? Any?
Ye- Yes,
Yes.
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 Motion to approve carried. 7.12, review and approve consent agenda. Pay request totaling $17,182.54. I will read the 4 items. Council can make a motion with consent to call to vote all 4 items, or they can make a motion of any of the individual items. Item A from Martin Garner Architecture in the amount of $3,413 for the Anamosa Downtown Revitalization Phase 2 project. Item B from Pierce Tobin Construction in the amount of $84.16 for the Second Street Lift Station project. Item C from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $6,142.92 for the Second Street Lift Station project. Item D from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $7,542.46 for the Second Street Lift Station project.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Brooke. Council discussion. Public comment. Benny?
Yes.
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 Motion to approve carried. 8.0 City Administrators Report.
I don't have anything this evening.
Does council have anything for Jeremiah?
How were your classes?
Oh, yeah, they were good. I'm halfway through though. I get to return again. I'll be leaving this evening and we'll do the second half. There's a 2-part Municipal Professionals Institute, Municipal Professionals Academy. Packed in quite a few classes. I spent most of the week with I don't know, maybe 100 or so other clerks and administrators throughout the state. I was able to speak to some individuals about some of the changes in state law that's affecting other places, just as we're being affected by them. So it's always good to kind of gauge other places and how it's affecting them either the same or differently.
Else? 9.0 Mayor and Council Reports. 9.1 Mayor's Report. I do not have anything. 9.2 Council Reports. Okay, anything?
Well, I was gonna tell y'all, you missed maybe, and there was something else I wanted to say, but I left my brains in the car. So there you go.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. It was the Miss Mamie being in Anamosa. What I read in the paper was very successful. I wish my schedule would have permitted me to be in attendance. So that's a plus there too. Thanks for that report, Katie.
I aim to please.
10.0 Public comment for items not on the agenda. 11.0 Adjournment. This evening's meeting is adjourned. Thanks everyone for taking time out this evening in attendance.